down at the table and end the war, which is why Trump sent Steve Witkoff to meet with Putin, and Russia says they're seeing progress. Quote, a good day in talks and meetings with Russia and Ukraine. They're very close to a deal, and the two sides should now meet at very high levels to finish it off. Most of the major points are agreed to stop the bloodshed now. We will do whatever is necessary to help facilitate the end to this cruel and senseless war. But this will be the hardest deal of Trump's life.
Morse Mutual, how can I be of service? Sure.
I don't want to minimize Zelensky's heroism early in this conflict, but he is not equipped, I don't believe, to make this deal. And he's not equipped to continue to lead the country. I'm not even talking about the corruption. I'm just talking about fatigue and the fact that he's got a horrible relationship with the president of the United States. These are two untrustworthy guys. Right, Zelensky's been built up as Churchill, but in terms of these negotiations, in terms of his ability to deliver, in some ways he's every bit as untrustworthy for these purposes as Putin. I'm not saying he's as evil as Putin, but he's as untrustworthy a negotiating partner from the president's point of view as Putin is.
Last night, announced that the judge in Mexico
and longtime great friend, Tammy Bruce, joins us now. Thank you so much, Tammy, for joining us. That's okay. Where are we right now with negotiations between Putin and Ukraine?
Well, I think the person you can trust on that regard is, of course, the president, President Trump. He's making it clear that he thinks this is potential. And we know, of course, from President Trump that he didn't think so. He would tell us. This is the clarity, the transparency that we want. We're moving up to the 100-day mark of the Trump presidency, and he's gotten people at the table that would never have gotten there in the first place. Certainly Russia, Ukraine, and in the dynamic with the ceasefire, and finally looking at Gaza seriously about what needs to happen there. But with Russia and Ukraine, the president feels and continues to do the work he's doing because he knows that it's possible, he knows he can succeed, he knows what the deal needs to be, and he sees the progress. This is a man who's not going to waste his time doing something that will not end the way he wants it to end. And even when everybody else thinks this is not going to be a winner, that this is going to work, even perhaps the last 4 years of him fighting to get back into the White House, he was correct, it worked, he stuck with it, this can work as well. And the main reason he's throwing is because he knows that they know that he's got the power to make a difference, to affect Russia. Well, look, when it comes to what the difference is between Trump and Biden, in part, is that, look, I would suggest somebody ask Soleimani or al-Baghdadi about whether Trump is serious, and we'll get to the
Well, I know that this probably complicates your life a lot, but it's not like secret to Trump's success. I think the more moving part that you're well, I think that this is also as part of it is the notion of the timing here. When we have now 3 years plus a few months, he knows he must get this done, but he also knows he can't. He knows that the founders wanted men and women of action. These Americans who are going to do things
laptop with up-to-date info on Cannon's property. Cannon claims he's no signs of gang membership and wrote in a letter to the New Mexico Judicial Standards Commission. I cannot help but feel that the capture of these boys is just another unfortunate addition to the current nationwide effort to apprehend, detain, and deport anyone not born in the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi also said today she believes that the judges in these cases are quote, deranged and consider themselves above the law, and the AG said the arrests should send a message that the Trump administration will act not just against illegal immigrants, but also against the judges, the White House and DOJ.
Fucking right. Put them bitches in jail. Yep. Put them bitches in jail.
Thank you. First, a Wisconsin judge under arrest.
Yep. Put them bitches in jail. Ain't nothing but a bunch of legal line lawyers anyway.
Prosecutors say Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan allegedly helped that migrant avoid arrest by ICE officers at the courthouse. It's a bizarre case and it's still unfolding. Hello, I'm John Robbins, Washington. Sandra, good to see you.
All right, if we could be back with you as well, John. I'm Sandra Smith in New York, and This is America reports today's arrest of a judge marks the second such case in the last 24 hours. A former New Mexico judge and his wife were taken into custody yesterday. federal agents arresting them for harboring a suspected Tren de Aragua gang member in their guest house.
Following all of this, we are honored to have in the new U.S. Attorney General, Pam Bondi. It's good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
So let me read a little bit from the criminal complaint here. Judge Dugan says, despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. A foot chase ensued. The agents pursued Flores Ruiz with the entire length of the courthouse and ultimately apprehended him. According to this complaint, Judge Dugan was visibly angry that ICE was there to arrest Flores Ruiz, even tried to kick the deportation agents out of the courthouse.
Yeah, and to set the stage for you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, beat guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he'd been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out, she goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officer. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom, you're going to believe this, takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom. You know, Attorney General, great to have you here, and thanks for coming back on America Reports. We remember these words of Tom Homan, the border czar. This was March 17th, and his message on these judges who apparently are trying to get in the way of this administration's efforts. Listen.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges say. I don't care what other things. We're coming.
So when you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them? We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen. Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case. Really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
In fact, she just had an initial appearance in court. There's also this other case coming out of New Mexico. Judge Joel Cano and his wife were arrested for harboring a TDA member at their home. The alleged TDA member had been picked up by law enforcement, and now he and his wife were picked up and arrested. And you say that you believe, as the Attorney General, that the person that they were having living at their home was a truly bad individual.
Yeah, that's the judge up on the screen now who got arrested. Yeah, his name is Ortega. He was a known TDA member. So he comes to the Eagle Pass December 2023. He's living in our country. January 2025, ICE, they get a tip. Tom Homan's doing a great job.
Yeah, come hold on.
In this case, too. They get a tip that he is living with a judge and the judge's wife. So, he got him arrested first on immigration charges. A Judge Damian Martinez releases him, saying Judge Cano is a good BS meter and wouldn't let just anyone live on his property. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the associations with this violent Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, and this person that they harbored in their home, he was showing signs of imploding, we were told, tattoos. There was evidence through voice messages and text messages of his association to TDA. So what charges will Cano and his wife face, if any? So Judge Cano, soon to be former Judge Cano, got his charges were just unsealed. He's charged with obstruction. He is charged, he admitted post Miranda. He took one of the TDA members' cell phones himself, took it, beat it with a hammer, destroyed it, and then walked the pieces to a city dumpster to dispose of it to protect him. The wife also is charged with destroying evidence. Sandra, not only that, this TDA member, and he had on a necklace that said kill, something about death. He had tattoos all over him. He also had on his cell phone pictures of two decapitated victims. Decapitated, gruesome photos. And he was sending them out. Whoever he was sending them to was sending them and saying, hey, you need to be careful. You shouldn't be sending these. You shouldn't be testing these photos out. Not only that, these two, the judge and his wife, gave him the cell rifles that belonged to their daughter. That's what they're charged with. In the criminal report affidavit, he goes to a shooting range with these assault rifles, with assaults, with other known TDA members, and they're shooting. This is the last person that we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them.
Let me, if I could, Madam Attorney General, get back to the Wisconsin case and Judge Hannah Duggan, because in allegedly letting the perpetrator and the attorney out through a non-public exit and allowed them to get out in front of the building, we had a situation where we've seen, and I know Tom Homan was complaining about in Colorado, where there would be no transfer of a defendant from a jail to ICE custody on a detainer request in a way that was orderly and protected public safety. They would dump them off in a parking lot, and ICE would have the chief DA or whatever, FBI, to pick them up. This ended up in a food chase in public site. It says here a food chase and shoot. The agents, and this was a DEA agent and an FBI agent, pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse. Ultimately apprehended him near the intersection of West State Street and 10th Street. So the judge apparently has created a situation where there's a public food chase. We all know that while sometimes they can come off without incident, they can also turn into very dangerous situations.
John, that's exactly right. She put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. She put the lives of citizens at risk of a street chase, which is absurd that had to happen. But yes, she put a lot of people in danger. That judge did it, so did the other judge. Judge Cano is charged with allegedly giving him assault rifles, AK-47s, AR-15s, and exposed a no TDA member not even go to a shooting range to qualify to shooting skills. The judiciary is beyond me. Yes, here's this. They think these were once standing people in their communities and their professions, and they've been putting all of their mind for this. Have you dug into their motive? Like, what inspired them to carry out these acts and harbor criminals? Range is all we can think of. I cannot believe. I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and they are not. And we're sending a very strong message today. If you are a harboring a fugitive, we don't care who you are. You are helping hide one, and you are giving a TDA member guns. Anyone who is illegally in this country, we will come for you and we will prosecute you.
If I can finish up with this very significant development, they were arresting judges. It made that the judges have engaged in terribly bad behavior and deserve to be arrested, beginning with criticism. This is a government that is expanding powers of the Article 1, the Constitution. Now we're arresting judges. How do you respond to that?
No one is above the law, John. No one is above the law in this country. And if you are destroying evidence, if you are obstructing justice when you have victims in a courtroom of domestic violence, or escorting a criminal defendant out the door, it will not be tolerated, and it is a crime in the United States of America. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to be prosecuted.
Madam Attorney General, great to see you in the studio.
Great to see you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. But tonight, we want to go back to this stunning story that is unfolding live in one information on the judge in Wisconsin who was arrested by the FBI today. They say she tried to help a domestic violence suspect get his way out of the courtroom as if ready to begin procedure because she thought she was aware that there were federal agents in the building. So she spirited him out a sniper walked straight to the pilot from the FBI. This is Judge Judge Dugan in Lafayette, next to a bus of people in Mexico. So also, a former judge and his wife were arrested in New Mexico. They were accused of letting a suspected Nicaragua member in their guest house after he did some work on their home. So now we bring in another sort of perspective on the story. We talk the legal side of it, some of the political side of it. U.S. Customs and Border Protection and former ICE director. So, Ron, you brought a background as an agent for ICE. You went into the courtroom because you saw this person in the building and there's someone that you're looking for. How long did this played out in your mind? And how shocked would you be if the judge let this person out the side door?
Well, this is an activity that the agents engage in, right? They plan, they do some surveillance, they're aware of the court docket. They probably know that some judges and maybe the defense attorneys also people in the court would be resistant to their presence. But I don't think you could imagine that the actual judge in the trial would do things like this, let the guy out the back door. She's a judge. She's supposed to be a leader, a pillar in the community.
Man, she used to be a legal line lawyer before coming a judge. All legal line lawyers, most of the time, become judges. Yep. Yeah.
These agents show up and she berates them while she's letting this guy out the back door. So now she's going to go.
She above the law. Talking about above the law.
I thought she was above the law. This is a crime. The FBI is going to charge her for lying to federal agents.
Yep.
They ought to charge her for aiding and abetting.
Yep. All that. Everything. Everything. Throw the fucking book at her.
Wisconsin bar ought to revoke her.
Throw the book at her.
Ever again in her life. She deserves our scorn.
Yep. Yep.
So here is a new statement from Senator Dick Durbin, Senate Judiciary Committee, on the Wisconsin judge. He says, when immigration enforcement officials interfere with our criminal justice system, it undermines public safety, prevents victims and witnesses from coming forward, and often prevents those who committed crimes from facing justice in the United States. How does this make America any safer? Your reaction to what Senator Durbin has to say here?
Well, he's very confused, right? Those law enforcement officers were there doing their job. They're going to that courthouse most likely because Milwaukee won't let him in the jail when the guy was arrested the first time for the battery that he committed. They could have arrested him in the jail after he got arrested the first time, or when he made bail, he would have been turned over to ICE. But Dick Durbin, he wants to have it both ways. He says he's for law and order. He says he's for the people, but he's not for the victims of illegal aliens who also commit crimes in the United States. He's not for the rule of law because that arrest would have been completely lawful.
Yep.
And it wouldn't have interfered at all. If she would have done her job and heard that case or whatever the hearing was, they would have taken that man into custody after the hearing safely without incident. She's the one that screwed up here. And Dick Durbin, giving her cover makes us all glad that he's on his way to retirement.
Yeah, she prevented justice from moving forward for him. If he was innocent, he was being given that opportunity to prove himself so, and the ICE activity could have waited until after that process. Ron Vitiello, thank you very much. Great to have you with us as always.
Okay, here's a lot to unpack here. Rosanna, I want to start with you. She said you threatened them. She may want to clarify that, but that is what she's caught on tape saying.
Well, she's saying basically call and make themselves wells. But threaten is a different word when you say threaten. We've seen Nancy Waters say that too, and people listen to them. Unfortunately, as we know, there are people in this society who take literally what you say. And I don't know. I don't think it was a great idea. Can we get back to the courtroom? Because I think everybody is just trying to figure out what happened in that courtroom with the judge being arrested. And yes, it's concerning. It's disappointing. But I was also thinking about the victims who were in that courtroom. I've covered many cases as a reporter of domestic abuse. A lot of these victims don't like to go against the people who've attacked them.
Yep.
They're scared. They're afraid of retribution.
Yep.
Snell is sitting in that courtroom where all of a sudden the man that she believes, attacked her is at a side door, disappeared, and the next thing you know, who knows what happened in that courtroom? All hell breaks out. They're looking for him. I was looking over the criminal complaint,
And
Protect yourself
Jessica
and have
I
a
were
nice
talking
fucking
earlier,
day.
and she was very, very concerned about the standard, what we were starting with something like this. But when you look over this, and you see that a courtroom deputy in this complaint basically said that this was very unusual in that courtroom, in the judge's courtroom. They said first, the courtroom deputy had previously heard Judge Dugan direct people not to sit in the jury box because it was exclusively for the jury use. However, the defendant was allowed to sit in the jury box. Secondly, the judge is then overheard basically telling the defendant and his attorney to go out the side door. And the next thing you know, ICE agents are being told what's going on. They're running after this guy on foot. I don't know. Something is very fishy here.
Yeah, they chased him down the street.
They chased him
and
down
got
the street
him.
and they got him.
He had, and there's a debate about how he got out and what the judge
Everybody's worried about the judge, but, you know.
Right, and so what DHS is telling us, it says he has a laundry list of violent criminal charges, including strangulation and suffocation, battery, and domestic abuse. We couldn't verify all of that, but we could verify 3 domestic abuse charges. Infliction of physical pain or injury is what we're told. But Greg, the allegation is the judge felt like that's the guy who needed protecting.
Yeah, I would like to quote Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and every self-righteous Democrat: no one is above the law. And that includes left-wing judges who subvert the law themselves. This isn't even about political ideology or even immigration. We're seeing judges who clearly lean towards a specific side. They're called activist judges, but that's a contradiction. Judges are not activists. They are judges. Maybe this judge has a backstory with this illegal. Could it be? It's not just the gavel that she's banging. I want to talk about Frederica Wilson. It's hard to take her seriously when she dresses like she's auditioning for the Real Housewives of the Kentucky Derby. They define what you're seeing is a lot of these people in power define their positions by their hatred for Trump. If he came out against self-harm, she would probably punch herself in